I don't know.
Welcome to the G5 Hive and our next installment of our Worker Bee series, where we deep dive into the G5 college football landscape with the folks that know the teams the best. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. Today, we'll be taking a look at the Fresno State Bulldogs, who finished 9-4 in 2023 and capped off their season with a win over New Mexico State in the New Mexico Bowl. They wrapped up their 2024 spring practice with their spring showcase on April 27th. We have a special guest joining us today. He works for the Fresno Bee. He is the man on the ground for the Fresno State Bulldogs. He is Robert Kuwada. Robert can be found at @Kuwada on X. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you very much.
So recently, Jeff Tedford stepped down as head coach due to some health concerns. Tim Skipper was named the interim head coach. He formerly served as the assistant head coach and linebackers coach. What does this mean for Fresno State, heading into the 2024 season?
You hate to see Jeff Tedford had to step away for take care of some health issues, but I don't think it's going to have a major impact. The team went through this last bowl season, and you look back at what that team did in the bowl, coming off a pretty rough end of the regular season. Skipper and that staff did a great job putting everything back together and getting the team ready to play one last bowl game, and they went out there and won easily. They had I think it was probably one of the best coaching jobs of the bowl season. So yeah, I think obviously they're going to miss having Tedford around, but I think they'll just keep motoring along.
For those not familiar with Fresno State's offensive style, how would you describe it? And do you think the loss of Tedford will have any impact?
That's a great question. I actually been thinking about this a lot. The offense is kind of a hybrid. You get some spread in there. You get some pro elements in there. But the one thing that really sticks out about Tedford's time here at Fresno State, they've had 4 offensive coordinators. Over the past 6 years, they've had like 5 quarterbacks start at least 4 games, and they're the only Mountain West team that's averaged 30 points a game for 6 years in a row. So doesn't matter who's been calling the plays, who's been throwing the ball, found ways to get it done, and they give them a big benefit of the doubt on a lot of things there that they can make fixes, find the right things to do. It's one of those things, 6 years in a row, not a lot of people will get that done.
Well, let's get to the position where it all starts on the offense, and that's the quarterback. 2023 starter Mikey Keene. Mikey Keene is back for the Bulldogs here in 2024. How has Keene looked in the spring and so far here in the start of the fall ball?
Very good, actually. I think toward the end of last season, he got banged up a little bit and wasn't quite as effective as he was early in the year. The last 3 games of the regular season were pretty rough for the whole offense, really. They didn't even put up 20 in any of those games, which they hadn't done in quite some time. But, he's healthy now. The kid's got a big work ethic, which is a thing that Tedford used to always talk about. So, healthy. I expect him to have a very big season. Second year in the offense, he's going to be more comfortable with things, more vocal. And just with that experience, you'd expect them to be more efficient, better on third downs, better in the red zone. And I think he's primed for a pretty big year.
So Logan Fife transferred to Montana, and the staff, if I remember it correctly, didn't bring in any transfers for that room. Is it safe to say that they feel pretty comfortable with a number 2 who's already in that room?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think they did take a little bit of a risk because Joshua Wood, even in the spring, just a couple of months ago, was still coming back from a shoulder injury, but he is. Again, he's back to full health, looks like. I mean, he made it through the throw the other day, kind of rolling hard to the right, throwing off one leg, got it out there about 50 yards to a running back for a touchdown. I mean, it's not a throw he could have made in the spring. Just physically, it wasn't back yet. But, yeah, he is, and that's really helped that room because, the third quarterback or the second quarterback, these two guys are competing. Jaden Mandel, they, I think Mandel kind of needed that competition level in the spring, and it wasn't really there, and it is now. So I think the number 2 spot, whichever one of those two guys it will be, I think they're very comfortable with.
Moving over to the running game, we were talking before we started recording about the great history they have there at running back, from Lorenzo Neal, Ronnie Rivers Sr., Ronnie Rivers Jr., Ryan Matthews, and in 2024 is no different. They bring back their leading rusher from a year ago in Malik Sherrod. How has that running back room looked so far?
The room is incredibly deep. I mean, you got Malik Sherrod, he's going to be one of the better backs in the conference this year. And you have other guys who've played a little bit and other guys who are waiting to play. But, I mean, they have a lot of talent stacked up there. Elijah Gilliam, Jonathan Arsenault. It's a deep room. They got some younger guys, like I said. So, yeah, a lot of guys there.
So, last season we saw when Sherrod, at least when he was healthy, he garnered the majority of those touches. Do you kind of see that happening again, or with that depth, you think maybe they rotate guys more often?
I think it'll be similar only because they have that depth. I think, you look at Fresno State, the history, like you said, you mentioned some of those running backs, but when they've had that guy, they've let him go. I mean, Jordan Mims in 2022, he was over 70% of the running back carries, and Ronnie Rivers was near 70%, I think, 2019. And of course, this is one thing that stands out to me about my time at Fresno State. Robbie Rouse, who's the all-time leading rusher here, he was in the 90s in 2011, and he had 328 carries, and the next running back had 20. So when they have that guy, they feed that guy. You look at what they have this year. I mean, Malik certainly could carry that kind of load, but with the depth they have, I don't think they'll need him to. So I think it'll probably look a little bit like it did last year.
Well, let's move over to the passing game. Eric Brooks and Jalen Gill both graduated, leaving 2023 standout freshman Jalen Moss as a leading receiver returning. They also added a few guys from the portal in the spring or after the spring. What kind of stands out to me in those transfers that came was their build. They seem to be these slot guys, 5'9", 5'9", 5'10". How much should I read into the size of this guys that they're bringing in?
Not much, actually. I don't think. I think, it's Fresno State. It's not Alabama. You're gonna take the best guys. If they can play ball, they're gonna play ball. They could be 6'3" or 5'10". You look at some of the guys who've been here recently. Jalen Moreno Cropper, I think, was around 6 feet tall, and he played outside his senior year. Keyshawn Johnson, I think he was around 6'1". So yeah, I don't think the size. These guys will line up 2-3 different spots during the course of the year. So I don't think their size is going to be much of a deal.
What are kind of your expectations, the fans' expectations here in 2024 for this receiving room?
I mean, this is one area in the spring you kind of wondered about because, like you said, I mean, Jalen Moss, he's going to be a special guy. He's going to be one of the better receivers in the conference. Josiah Freeman, you're talking about guys with length and speed. I mean, he has a chance to have a really big second year here. But the depth, the experience level beyond those two, and I guess Magdalena, he was probably the third or fourth leading receiver last year. There were some questions, and they needed some guys to come in, Sharp and James, and they needed to shore that up a little bit, get some guys who can play. They brought in the JC guy also, who's made a pretty good impression, Kareem McCune. And Nathan Acevedo, who's been here a couple of years now, he's had a great start to camp. So I think they're feeling much better about the depth and explosiveness of that group.
We mentioned some of those names there. They got Michigan week 1. Do you have a feeling of who Fresno State should roll out there week 1?
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at Moss, you're looking at Freedom, you're looking at Delana, Sharp, and will be in that group, I'm sure, as well. James as well. I think you start there, and like I said, there's some other guys who can work their way onto the field.
Moving over to the tight end room, if you were to describe how the tight ends are utilized in this offense to someone who's never caught a Fresno State game, how would you describe it?
I would say underutilized. That's a position I've always thought you'd get the ball more here. You look at Trey Watson last year; he had 38 receptions, and that was the most in probably 5 or 6 years. And I mean, you look at the way they've used the position the past couple of years. I think it was 2022; they had 3 tight ends catch a ball, but all year, I think 3 of them were on third down, right? And red zone production was very similar to that. So it's one spot. They've had guys, and you like to see them get the ball a little bit more. So, yeah, underutilized is what I would say.
So this room took a hit, as you mentioned. Trey Watson, he transfers out to Washington. Didn't really see any transfers coming in. But, the tight ends that are there, how have they looked so far, and is anyone standing out?
Very good, and that's part of the reason I say they're underutilized, because they've always had guys there, and they do this year as well. I mean, Jake Bass has played some football here already. Cameron Beecham's a guy that people are going to want to keep an eye on. Jake Tarwater. They've got guys at the position who can be assets in the pass game. Help blocking at the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I think it's a group I've always wanted to see more use of the tight ends here.
On paper, this offensive line looks to be in pretty good shape heading into the 2024 season, and for the most part, this line stayed pretty healthy in 2023. They also bring back 4 of their 5 stars from a year ago, and I didn't really see a lot of additions to this room via the portal. One of those guys that they lose is a center, but I assume they feel pretty comfortable with the guys that they have in that room, that they have somebody that can take over that center position.
Yeah, they've moved Mose Vaval from guard to center, and he will play there, I'm sure, all year. He's probably their best and most versatile interior lineman. So
then if right guard's getting freed up, is there a position battle there at right guard, or do they already have somebody there that you kind of pinpointed?
Yeah, they're kind of, I mean, everything's going to be a competition there through another couple of weeks at least. But, they have some guys who've played there. The ones the past week or so have been Campbell McCarg, who came here from Oregon State, and Osmar Velez, who played a lot of football there at guard last year. So Those are the two guys who've been running with the ones most recently. And outside at the tackles, Braylon Nelson and Torian Penwright, while Jacob Spomer, he started most of the year last year, got hurt, banged up in the late in the year, and they expect him back pretty soon. So he'll also join that mix.
Well, Robert, if you had to pick an offensive player to have a breakout type season here in 2024, who would that be?
Does Moss count? Because I would go with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a great off season. I mean, he's did a lot of work in the weight room. I mean, he looks completely different. Stronger, more physical. Going to be more explosive player this year than he was last year. I know he caught a lot of passes last season, but I expect him to have a really big year. Like I said, Cameron Beecham, the tight end, if they go there, I think he can have a really big year as well.
Well, Robert, thank you for taking time out of your day to share with us and share your knowledge. We greatly appreciate it.
Sure, anytime.
All right, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening in podcast form, please rate and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you all for your support. And until next time, we are G5 Hive.